At the age of 16, you were ripped from your family by Nazis and taken to Auschwitz. And you tell a heartbreaking story where the Nazi guard asks you if the woman next to you is your mother or your sister. When you answer mother, they then split you up and they say, don't worry, she's just gonna take a shower. After realizing then the consequences, you go on to say, I can forgive the Nazis, but how can I forgive myself? So Dr. Edie, how on earth did you build such resilience to be able to face evil, let go of the hate, and finally forgive yourself?
There was a time when I shook my fist to God. You know, I don't think the forgiveness came without rage. I didn't get over it. I'm not getting over it. But I don't live there. I know that if I could have really said something, I would have. But I said to myself, why didn't I was able to bring my mother here? Because everybody after 40 had to stand in this line, and everybody with family to this line. And if we would have let our mother go alone, she would have gotten through. So, I could have, I would have. You can kill yourself by putting yourself down, what you could have done and you didn't. If you knew then what you know now, you would have done things differently. I hope you will learn to forgive yourself, that you're human. And I'm not running away from it. And I just want to be sure that I'm just as ordinary as anybody. And I decided that there is a lot to live for.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And in reading your book, I don't know if you meant for it to be somewhat of it's like a rule book of how to handle adversity. So I've written it as if it's the rules of resilience. And so number one is you just say you chose life. How do you choose life in that situation?
Because love can conquer all.
I asked you a while ago, right over there, when I was having a conversation with you, and I asked you this, and I loved, she gave me a moment that gave me chills, and I'll never forget it. And I asked you, I said, did you ever believe that you wouldn't survive? And what did you say?
Never.
Never. You had that.
It was just a question of time. I absolutely have no other way of looking at it as a place where I am in a schoolroom and wanting to be sure that I'll get through here. I did not even think about that I will not.
Do you think that that was such a big part of what allowed you to survive, is not even giving yourself an option?
There is, we're going to be dead for a long time. So while I'm here, I'm going to use every moment to touch people and hug people. And obviously, it's not anything sexual. It's just really pure love as a human being to another. Because if you leave this room, nobody can really replace you. You're special. You're one of a kind. Diamond.
That's so beautiful. And there really is the power of the mind that if you give yourself an option, it opens the book to potentially just giving up and dying. And when I was reading your book, there were so many moments of just resilience where I think your average person would give up. And especially in today's society where people don't have that perspective. And so you feel like you're about to break if your partner leaves you or if you lose a job. And while all of these things, yes, are heartbreaking and serious, I think the way you think about things enables other people to not give up, no matter what they're going through. And so you mentioned it earlier, but one of the things I have as number 2 actually is how you chose to see life. And so your sister gets her head shaved and she asks you, how does she look? And yeah, you say to her,
I said, you have such beautiful eyes, because I didn't want to lie. I just said the truth, and she does have beautiful eyes. She lived a very full life. My definition of love is the ability to let go. Let go of the need for other people's approval, that you be your genuine self, just the way you were born. And I remember my sister asked me, we were completely nude, and she asked a good Hungarian woman's question, how do I look?
What I think that story is so brilliant about is you made the choice to not lie to her, but to tell her something that would give her strength.
Exactly. I think today I would have done something differently, but I'm glad that I was able to point out that she's still good. She still have a lot of good things about her, and she did. She did.
And she survived.
Yes, I remember they gave out coats, and it was February. It was a very cold place, and Magda got a coat, I got a coat. I was wearing mine, she was wearing hers, and pretty soon I see her exchanging her good warm coat to another one that was more fashionable. In February, in a winter time,
Starving.
near the Czech border in
Gee.
1944.
and I believe I have a quote of yours because you were mad at her, right? So everyone's waiting for these coats. She gets given like the piece de resistance, the coat that everybody wants. You say that it's all buttoned up to the neck. It's all the way down to the ankles. And you say like she had the best jacket. And then she goes and exchanges it for something much more revealing. And I actually have a quote of yours that you say, I realized that for her, wearing something sexy is a better survival tool than staying warm. And the power of thinking that while one person thinks of survival as one way, it isn't that way for everybody. And sometimes the survival is feeling good about yourself.
So what do you think, mister?
Well, I think the two of you survived. And she made the decisions that were right for her. And though they didn't seem right in terms of actual survival, we are unique creatures that have more strength in our mind than in our body.
You can become Mother Teresa and you can become a Hitler. It's your choice. I chose actually to pray so the enemies would not really be ugly to us, but to be, and they were much kinder sometimes than the men were. And so it's good to choose not the way you are now, but the way you want to be sure that you're climbing that mountain. And I'm not revolving, but evolving.
Yeah, one of the things under your resilience that I actually have is turning hate into pity. You say, I can see that Dr. Mengele, Angel of Death, the seasoned killer who just this morning murdered my mother, is more pitiful than me. I am free in my mind, which he can never be. He will always have to live with what he's done. He is more of a prisoner than I am. How on earth are you able to have such compassion and empathy almost for somebody who on the daily basis threatened your life? How did you not have that resentment?
I had a tendency to be making the bad into good and finding something good in everything. Even the 14-year-old who got up and told me he's going to go out and kill all the Jews. I could have taken him to the corner and step on him and tell him, who do you think you're talking to? But I didn't do that. I said one line, which I say a million times, tell me more. He had no idea who I was, what I was, or what I do. He was stealing cars, actually. That's how he lived.
You know, this story is when Edie became a therapist, and at the beginning, she was being asked to help with patients, and the patients they would sort of send it through the corrections facility in Texas. And this person who came to her was a white supremacist and didn't know, of course, that Edie was Jewish, or he did, probably didn't care. But anyways, went on to say that he essentially hated everybody other than white people. And Edie had this moment where she had to find out what she could do as a therapist and as a human, not to denounce this person, which would then ultimately turn him into a wall, and you're not going to get anywhere. And so she made this powerful decision after swallowing her first instinct to yell at him and beat him, and said, tell me more. And I think this is a really astute method of getting from somebody what is behind their anger, and it humanizes them, both to them and to you, and it opens the opportunity for them to go deeper into it.
What comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. What stays in there does. So you want to hopefully practice self-love, which is kind and not narcissistic. You can be happy or you can be miserable. It's your choice.
So there's one more story that I'd like to talk about in the book that I found so hilarious and funny. And I thought this is a true example, Edie, of how you have gotten to be such an incredible woman with the amount of strength that you have. But you talk about one moment when you guys were in Auschwitz and you guys have a boob competition to see who has the best breasts. And what I love about that story is just how much you're still human to try and bring the lightheartedness to such a serious situation, and the power of having fun and laughing. And at the end of the day, who won the boob competition?
I did, because I was a gymnast, so I had strength. I was climbing rope. I danced for Dr. Mengele, because the girls wanted to tell him, he wanted to be entertained. So they just threw me in front of him. And my Jewish teacher said, go and do your best dance ever. And you know what? I did that. I did a split. I did it this way and that way, front, back, all of that. And that was in 1944.
As I was reading your story and you talk about that moment of the dance, and, for people who don't know necessarily who he is, he was known as the angel of death. And they ask you, all of your, everyone pushes you in front for you to dance for him. And the moment where you say, I don't know if he's about to kill me or save me, how do you handle that type of pressure?
Well, I'm not a handler, for one thing, and I do have a deep faith that people are basically good, just like Anne Frank did. Very many people do call me, actually, the Anne Frank who didn't die, and I take it as a very wonderful compliment.
I think Edie was a performer. And in fact, if you look at her life story, it's not a surprise that she's here with us today, doing what she's doing, because when she was a little girl, she found her strength in being a performer. She had a family that didn't give her what she probably needed, which was the love and support. But she found it when she was doing ballet, and she found it when she was doing gymnastics. And in that moment, she wasn't asked to do something she didn't know how to do. She was forced under the most severe consequences imaginable to perform. And she is a performer. And it was a moment for her I asked her earlier, I said, Edie, did you discover who you really were in Auschwitz? Like that you were uniquely special? And you said to me,
Yes.
I always knew I was special.
Yeah, I always knew I could have said that, but the specialness comes from the strength that you look at life from inside out. You're not waiting for someone make you happy. You can talk to yourself every day and be a good parent to you. Promise that you're gonna do that. Don't criticize. Yes, but change the but to an and. Yes, and I'm here. I do have another choice. The more choices you have, the less you ever gonna feel like a victim. I was victimized. It's not who I am. It was done to me.
Sometimes I don't actually know what to respond to that, Edie, because the strength in just believing that I'm special when you have so many things that are trying to push you down. I mean, they are starving you. You're 70 pounds. You broke your back. I mean, you are a skeleton, and you were being told every single day that you were worthless and that you were no good. And so to hear that you said that every day you told yourself that you were special is the most magical thing on the planet. How do we teach other women to tell themselves that they are special when they are being told by other people around them that they are no good?
I let them know that many people can do what you can do, but not the way you can do it. See, if you leave this room, nobody can replace you here. Maybe they look like you, they talk like you, but it's just only one of you got made to be here and hopefully carry a lot of love around that people can really seek you out if they want to be a good parent to themselves.
The idea of parenting themselves, did you learn that because you lost your parents at Auschwitz?
I think it had a great deal to do with that part of my life that changed me totally. When I was liberated, I couldn't tell you the feelings, but I am remembering myself that I was just so grateful to the God that helped me through this difficult time. But I didn't have time to hate the Nazis or look for the Nazis. I didn't have revenge on my mind. I had on my mind, how can I be useful and do what I can do to let people know that they are survivors, otherwise they wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. Life is not easy.
In order for me to show up confident every single day, I watch everything I eat, and then I found out that the cookware I was using had toxins in it. So then I discovered caraway. Caraway is the most amazing frying pan, guys. It's so good. It's completely toxin-free, no chemicals. So now that I make my breakfast, you better believe that I feel really freaking good about myself because I know that I'm taking care not only of my health, but of my hormones. Because I don't know if you know, but chemicals in cookware can actually mess with your hormones. Now, every single morning, I'm protecting my body by using caraway. Visit carawayhome.com/WOI to see all of our favorite products and and the cookware we use to make cooking easy for even the most amateur home chefs, plus take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This store is exclusive for our listeners, so visit caraway.com/WOI or use coupon code WOI at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern.
Support for today's episode is from OneSkin. Now, guys, if you don't know OneSkin, I am obsessed with them right now. Now, I just turned 45 and there's zero problem with aging, but let's face it, getting wrinkles isn't exactly something I would wish for, even though I'm embracing them. So what I'm doing is I'm using my OneSkin products right here. I've got my face wash, I've got my moisturizer, and I've got this one that is especially for the eyes. Now, I'm using OneSkin to help me as I age, to make sure that I keep my skin fresh, that I keep it nice and looking really healthy. That is so important to me. And right now, you can actually save 15% off if you go over to oneskin.co and use the coupon code Lisa. That's oneskin.co, use coupon code Lisa. I'm telling you guys, you will not be disappointed. Okay, so a few more things that I have on the list of how you were able to build such resilience. So I had said earlier where you showed compassion even towards the angel of death, where you can look at him and say, he's more imprisoned than I am. But to be able to wish somebody not to have the hate and to show them such kindness like you did with that person that came into your office. Your sister, once you guys were released, and your sister was saying to you, I just want to kill the Germans. I want to kill a German mother because a German killed my mother, so I want to get retaliation. Help me understand the difference between somebody that wants to heal by getting revenge and someone that wants to heal like you, where you say, I have a different wish. I wish for the boy who spits at us to one day see that he doesn't have to hate. So you take you and your sister with exactly the same situation, the exact same thing has happened, but your sister seeks revenge and you seek love. What do you think that those differences look like as a result?
See, when you go down, you push somebody up more. And I think it's very important what you're saying now, to really become your own good parent. It's not short term, but long term, his hedonism was much better than short ones. I think you are a wonderful person to be a guide. And that's what you and I do. You give people choices, because the more choices you have, the less you're ever going to feel like a victim. It's not my identity. I don't live in Auschwitz.
So speaking of victim, obviously you had a choice to show up like a victim or say that I don't live there. So many people have said that I've heard, obviously I've never met myself, but have said, the real me was left at Auschwitz, or the real me was left when this one moment happened, and now I'm no longer the same. You don't, though. You say, no, Auschwitz isn't the end of me. That isn't my story. My story actually is way bigger than this. How were you able to let go somewhat? Obviously, I understand it's never permanent, but that you were able to let go of what happened.
I think my God is a wonderful parent to me. That makes me a good parent with myself and be my own good mother. That I may want to eat more, or I want to do something more than stay up all night and finish that book. I have to become very good with myself as being a very humane, loving mom.
Edie, you have a wonderful term, which I think is applicable here, which is, it's not about getting over it. It's about coming to terms with it.
There is no forgiveness without rage. You got to go through it, but don't get stuck in it. I don't live in Auschwitz, obviously, but I will never forget the time when I stepped out I went and revisited every place I was while I was interning there, and went back to Austria, went to Mauthausen, and I think it's very good for me to be 97 and speak as much as I can while I'm still around.
Yeah, what makes it powerful then for you to be able to look back? How is that powerful when many people look back at things and it hurts them so much they can't look? But you went back to Auschwitz, and everyone was warning you, don't do it. But you said, no, I need to. Mm-hmm. How were you able to do that? And was that part of your healing process?
What I do is revisit the places where I've been, relive the experience, and revise your life. You don't get stuck in there. I go through it. I get out of it. I don't live in Auschwitz. I don't care to go back to Auschwitz. I've done what I thought it's finished for me. I don't have to go back near even, because I've done it and it's enough. I live in a present. I can only touch you now.
A lot of us don't live in the present, though. I think a lot of us actually either live in the past or we live in the future. We have pain from the past that we either keep revisiting over and over, and we can never break free, or we want to shut out the past and only think of the future, that one day, but we just live in that moment of one day. How are you able to live every single day in true authenticity and really feel it?
I think I have a good God that gives me that kind of a present, that I have the ability to do what I'm doing. And I am very grateful for every moment I have. When I get up in the morning, I want to be sure. And the evening, I'm going to be very satisfied.
Edie,
I don't say yes, but I say yes, and change the but to an and.
Edie, I remember you saying that when you went back to Auschwitz, you had a breakthrough that you were not being controlled anymore by your past. And for you, that was what it took to essentially break the hold that story, particularly the story of the guilt that you felt for your mother, to release the hold that it had on you. And from there, you were able to start talking about your experience, which she had never talked about during my mom's entire childhood.
Stuck there.
She never spoke about Auschwitz. But now you can. You can go to the worst moment of your life, that moment in front of Dr. Mengele. You can talk about it. She can go through it because, and I think this is what's the huge reason that you can go to that story, is because you are helping other people with it. You're not just going into the wound to pick it and see how it feels. You are doing it in service of others. And so it's worth going into that hurt.
So what are the lessons actually then, Edie, that when you started to have your own children, what did you learn from your past, all the horrors that you had gone through? And what were the important things that you wanted to teach your children and your grandchildren to make sure that they knew from your experience that you had learned?
Get rid of two words. Always and never. I'm never going to do this again. Believe me. It's a habit. You're going to do it again. Just be kind to yourself. I think that's very important. But before I speak, I ask, is it necessary or is it kind or both? And if it's not, don't say it. So I talk to myself.
Edie, you have is it important, is it necessary, and is it kind? And if not, don't say it. And there's an acronym for that. which one of the students from our course came up with, which is really useful, is INK, I-N-K. And you can ask yourself that little question before you speak, especially to somebody that you might set off with what you have to say. Is this important? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Or is it chit-chat? Is it banter? Is it gossip? Is it dark? And if you ask yourself those three questions before you speak, you can sort of make yourself a more enlightened person in the eyes of yourself and maybe others. And I think that's part of your philosophy and part of how you exist in this world, which Edie is not a chit-chat person. She'd rather sit in silence. We were driving to LA for a big interview, and I'm talking to her about the thing, and she says to me, and I wanted to die because it was a challenge of life. And she says, "Jordan, I'd really rather sit in silence." And I was like,
I like to share silence, and some people are scared of silence, and they want to keep themselves from being scared. So when did you learn to fear? Love and fear does not coexist.
I think people don't like the silence for multiple reasons. We don't like being uncomfortable, and sometimes we don't want to give space to just thought and emotion. And so I think we try to fill those spaces with something so that no one feels, no one thinks, no one has emotions, and then you can continue. So the fact that you actually like the silence better than chit chat is so powerful, to think how comfortable you are with being with yourself when many women are not. Thank you guys so much. The work that you've done is changing so many people's lives, and to think that at 97 you are still showing up and impacting people's lives and changing the way that we feel about ourselves. So Edie, thank you so much. This has been the most incredible honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
So guys, if you want to actually build resilience, go check out Dr. Edie's book, The Ballerina of Auschwitz. And if you're not following this channel, click that subscribe button down there for more impactful interviews like this. If you want to learn the love and life lessons from a 103-year-old woman, then click here right now. The story that you share in the book, where you talk about your husband Bill of 46 years, writes you a letter letting